Rev up your engines!
Well, maybe that crazy Carlos Ghosn, the ex-CEO of Nissan, has started something up now, smuggling himself out of Japan so he doesn't get thrown in jail. Nissan is talking about possibly breaking away from Renault. If you know, around the year 2000 or so, Renault took over Nissan. Really, the quality started going downhill. Funny business going on with, the wealthy businessmen who run these things. The companies themselves, their quality's been going downhill. Here's where at least, hey, we as consumers do have a lot of power. They can talk all they want about how great they are, fast business deals behind the tables, but ultimately, what do? They make cars. And if you don't buy their cars because the quality is low, they go out of business. According to sources, the relationships between these two companies are irreparable. And what does it come down to? Just like I was talking. The sales of both companies are going down the toilet. Nissan's thinking, maybe we shouldn't have merged with Renault. If you want to look at the business side of it, turns out that Nissan is a minority owner, that Renault owns like 51% of it. So, if these things are voted on, well, they can't vote themselves out if they only have 49% of the votes, and the other side has 51% of the votes. The strange case of Nissan, the runaway ex-CEO, floundering quality and sales of both Nissan and Renault. I foresaw this when they first did it, because when they merged back in 2000, Renault had left the United States decades before from lagging sales, and Nissan, Ford almost bought it once, but then when the stock went down, they didn't buy it, and all kinds of rumored deals going on. From what I can see, Nissan's just grasping the straws back then, and they took whatever they get their hands on. Well, now they got into their own ball of wax, and they're stuck to it. You can vote with your money. Just don't buy their vehicles. Then you won't get stuck in the big ball of wax where you got a car that isn't very good like a Nissan or Renault and you're mad at the company. Listen to Scotty. Don't buy one in the first place. And don't get wrapped up because they're all scrambling for the money at the top while the company goes down the hill. Johnny Falcon 613 says, I got a 2012 Nissan Pathfinder. Original owner, 93,000 miles. Get rid of it now before it's too late. Well, here's the thing. It's an 8-year-old Pathfinder. Odds are you're not going to get much money for it. And if you are the original owner and you took care of it, and let's say it doesn't burn oil, it doesn't leak oil, and it runs good now, I'd just keep driving until the wheels fell off. Let's say you try selling it now and you're going to get $3,000 or something. What are you going to get for $3,000? And I got customers with Pathfinders. They have 150,000 and they're still running okay, and they took care of it. So in that case, even though I'm not a fan of Nissan, if it runs good now, what the heck? Drive the thing around. See how long it lasts. Mr. Tisto79 says, Scotty got a 2012 Corolla, manual transmission, 55,000 miles. The air filter, the cold air intake, the check engine lights on, and the fuel's running too lean. What can I do? Okay, you got a cold air intake. You put a cold air intake on one of those things, it'll often make them run lean. Engineers design those things for a certain type of intake, a certain flow that fits the mass airflow sensor, the computer software. You put that cold air intake on, you buggered the whole thing up. I can just about guarantee you, if you saved your old parts, put the old air box, the old air filter, put it on, reset the code, it'll probably stop running too lean. Because you add those things on, it'll often make them run too lean. Now, a lot of times you put it on and it doesn't immediately do it. Sometimes it takes weeks or months or even a year for it to say it's running too lean, because it takes a long time for it to confuse the computer and it tries to compensate, but then it can't anymore. But don't ever just throw a cold air intake on, especially on a Toyota product. They run perfect the way they're designed. Don't mess with engineering perfection with an add-on thing because you think it's going to make it run faster. It often makes it run worse. 606 says, are Scions any good, Scotty? Yeah, they can be excellent vehicles. It was just kind of marketing stupidity on Toyota's half. They thought, okay, we want to sell cars to young, hip people. So they decided, they created the Scion brand, and back in the day, they hired musicians and people to go to music stores and have them out there playing music and letting people test drive the Scions because they were marketing towards young people. I mean, to me, everybody knows Toyota makes good cars. Why did they just say, here's the Toyotas for young people instead of starting a new brand? I understand why Toyota made Lexus. That was because everybody knew Toyota made good cars. But, well, it's just a Toyota. So if they're going to make a fancy car, they made them and called them Lexus. Same company makes them, but they called them Lexus. And that's for rich people with lots of money They wanted to have the snob appeal. Now the kids, they really don't care about that. So they spend all that money making Scion dealerships and lotta, and now years later, they shut them all down and they just sell the same basic cars and call them Toyotas instead. There's nothing wrong with the Scions. It was just basically a marketing mistake by Toyota to create another brand when they really didn't have to in the first place. Todd Hauer says, should I use synthetic oil or conventional in my 2016 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid? Well, you should use synthetic oil because that's what it was designed for. And if it says on it, it should take like a 0W20 oil, you have to buy synthetic oil because there is no 0W20 conventional oil. They can't make it that way. The conventional oil can't be that thin where the synthetic oil can. So just look on your cap. And if it says 0W20, you have to use synthetic oil. And since it's a hybrid, you're better off using synthetic anyways because you get a little bit less friction with the synthetic oil, and you got a hybrid, you want to get the highest gas mileage you can. I'll give you an example. I had a customer with one, bought it, and then he decided to change his own oil, and he was using conventional oil himself. And when he switched, his gas mileage went down a little. So he came to me and he said, there's something wrong, I'm getting worse gas mileage. So I ran on my computer scans, went through it, checked everything out, couldn't find anything wrong, and I said, well, what kind of oil are you running on? And he told me, I said, well, you got to use the synthetic stuff. So then he changed the synthetic and the gas mileage went back up, so you best to stick with that with any hybrid car, really. Diot says, hey, Scotty, I'm in Toronto. I got an 015 Tacoma. Love the truck. Got a letter from Toyota. Inspect my frame for us. They want to put RC coating on it. Should I be concerned? Well, take it in and let them put a coating on for free. They had problems with frames rusting in Toyota in the past. Now, here in Texas, they don't have any problems with the 2015. But obviously, they know something's up there in Canada where you got salt in the road all the time. So if they're going to put a coating on for free, go right ahead and have them put it on. There's no way it's rusted yet because it's a 2015. But if they're going to put a coating on it for free, what the heck? Let them do it for you. Down here, like I say, the only ones that rusted down here were the ones that were at the Gulf Shore. Galveston went by the salt water in the ocean, and that was 2 decades ago, those frames that they had problems. And they replaced a lot of them for free. Christopher Grubb says, thoughts on older Chevys? Yeah, they make great cars. I learned to drive on a 66 Chevy 302 V8. Things could run forever. They were gas hogs, and they weren't like driving cars. They were like captaining a ship. They would just, up to one side, to the other side. And they were humongous. You were sitting on the living room couch with the big bench seats and the things. And they were solid built. Now, the new ones, no. But if you're into old cars and you want to fix one up, yeah, you fix them up. You can still get parts. And they can last a really long time. If you like giant boats that you ride around on a couch and get really crappy gas mileage. But all old cars got crappy gas mileage. Unless you're talking about old Beetles or something. They didn't care about gas mileage back in the day. Pete Barely says, have you ever had an animal made a home in a car before? Well, not in my own cars, but in customers' cars, yes. I've seen cats under the hood, but mainly it's squirrels and rats get in there in the winter and they warm up. And the oddest thing is that they'll often chew up the electrical wiring because, and I asked somebody about it one time, and I said, why are they chewing on these stupid little wires, right? Well, it turns out that small amount of voltage, which is either 12 volts or a 5-volt reference signal to computer stuff, it gets a kick. It does something to their brain. It's like they're rats on crack. And so they keep chewing on that little bit of electricity. It gives them a mental thrill. And then they destroy your electronic system. It doesn't hurt them because 12 volts isn't dangerous. And especially the 5-volt reference signal to a computer, that doesn't hurt anything. So they can chew away and it makes them feel good. And that's the destruction that they can do. And sometimes they can do thousands of dollars of damage if they chew the computer wires and it shorts the computers out. It can be a real mess of a job. You really don't want to make a nest under the hood of your car. RMS 492 says, Scotty, how often should radiator hoses be changed? Mine are 10 years old, but they look and feel good. All right. They are made out of synthetic rubber on most vehicles today. When I was a young mechanic, they were regular rubber, and it only last a few years, they'd rot, or they'd get like sausages and balloon out. What you want to do, since it's 10 years old, that's pretty old, but take a couple of the big ones off and look inside, because they often crack from the inside out. So if you squeeze them and you see the inside's cracking, replace them. But if they're still flexible and they're not cracked on the inside or the outside, you can leave them alone. Because it is synthetic rubber. They're not natural rubber like they used to be that would only last so long and then they just split and come apart. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.